Aiden.
Hello?
How are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Good. So, in general, what is your opinion on affirmative action?
Affirmative action is something that, I can see where they're coming from with it, but as a white male, and seeing a lot of the people around me who have gotten the opportunities that they have, it's been frustrating at times to think about. I would say overall, I disagree with it, and maybe in some cases it's right, but I would say that in a lot of cases, or many cases, it doesn't even do what it's supposed to be doing. And do you want me to expound on that?
Yes.
Okay, what I should say is that affirmative action is for people of different races or ethnicities who have supposedly undergone hardships because of their race or ethnicity, so then they're being rewarded and compensated for that. And that I'm all for. I think that, me being a white male, I've had two parents who have raised me. I've had, everything I've needed to do well in school. And I think that if someone else who's a different race has actually been, bullied because of their race, or came up in, really poor and worked their way up, things like that, and then if you want to give them the scholarship over me, I'm all for that. I think that they would deserve that. But what I see a lot of times is someone of a different ethnicity who's had the same, or a lot of times even better, they come from wealthier families. They'll have, two African-American doctors who have an African-American kid, and then he plays the race card, and even though I've taken more classes and more challenging classes and done better in those classes, he's getting scholarships over me and other Caucasian people who have outperformed him, and that I disagree with.
So, you think it's unfair for people of minority to get scholarships?
Simply because of their race, yes. Let me make an analogy. The NBA, I think we can all agree, is mostly African American, right? So if in America we're going to go with this way of thinking, I think every team should have to have 6 Caucasians. And in the draft, if there's a white person and a black person's stronger, taller, better ball player, I think that the white person should have to be drafted. Obviously that's ridiculous, right? And we're not going to do that, but that's the same kind of thinking that we fall into with affirmative action in school.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. So, in your opinion, you don't think that just because someone is an ethnic minority, they have gone through hardships because of their race, even if they've had a privileged life, and if everything was the same except for their race, you're saying you don't think that that's unfair?
I think that I think you have to take everything into account. Saying that giving them a scholarship just for their race is doing exactly what, it's almost being racist in another way.
Reverse racism.
It's reverse racism, yeah. It's saying exactly what they're trying to combat. They're saying, oh, these guys have been, underprivileged because they're minorities, they have challenges, they're being racist against. But then at the same time, you're being racist in saying, well, just because you're black, or just because you're Hispanic, we're going to give you a scholarship. I think take everything into account. Take into account whether they actually have had hardships. And if they write a great essay about it, and they actually have, and it's truthful, then sure. But like I said, I've seen so many cases of people who haven't really had these hardships, or they'll have a little percentage. Like, for example, I have a friend who looks totally Caucasian, looks totally white, didn't even know he was any part Native American, went to college, obviously underwent no hardships because he didn't even know he was. And while he was in college, he realized that he was like 1/16 Native American. And right away, he threw that on an application and submitted for a scholarship. And he, is that okay? And he got like $10,000 worth of scholarship money for this essay that he wrote about being a Native American. And I just think that's ridiculous, because in that case, no, he hasn't undergone any hardships for it. He hasn't been the subject of racism. He's just getting money thrown his way.
How do you think they could better determine the scholarships then?
I don't know, because I think a lot of times ethnicities are underprivileged. I don't know the stats, but I bet you if you looked at the stats, I mean, white males are probably overall more privileged than their counterparts. So that I don't know how they would do a better job looking at that. But just being on the receiving end of not getting a lot of things and watching people around me getting scholarships and such, it's just frustrating for me. I don't know exactly what should be done about it, but I've seen it kind of work the wrong way a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. So, would you say that you feel disadvantaged for being a white male?
I'd have a hard time saying disadvantaged just because, like I said, I've had a really fortunate upbringing. Like, I've had two parents who have always been there, came to all my stuff. You know, they help me out as much as they can. And I'm going to a world-class university. I mean, I can't say I've had many disadvantages or obstacles to overcome. But I think in terms of, like, getting acceptance into university, which wasn't a problem, but maybe if I would have applied to other universities, it could have been. Or, I mean, I'd like to go to medical school, and I think in gaining acceptance in a medical school and things like that, it almost is becoming a disadvantage to be a white male because you have nothing to set you apart then. Like, they're always looking for ways for you to set yourself apart, and when they see white male, I mean, you have to write essays about how you've been disadvantaged, and if you haven't had any, like, you know, extraordinary circumstances in your life, I think that is a disadvantage in a sense, just because there's a lot of other people who aren't like that.
So, overall, you're saying that you think getting a scholarship based on your race or your ethnicity, like purely based on your ethnicity, you'd say that is unfair.
Yeah, put it this way. I think that if I was the same exact person as I am now, and I had earned the same exact grades, and I had done the same exact extracurriculars, but one of my parents was Latino, or I don't know which races get that, but if one of my parents was a different ethnicity and I could use that on my applications, and like claim myself as a minority and adding diversity to the group and such, I think that I would have a better chance of getting into places and getting scholarships than I do now.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah, I